Jordan Addison, a polarizing figure, to say the least, in rookie drafts. Some say he's too small, but in my opinion, the dude can flat out play. I have some explaining to do in this video ahead of me here, and I'm wearing my USC hoodie unironically for a reason. In today's video, we're going to break down everything and anything Jordan Addison, wide receiver from Southern California, and determine how you should be handling him in rookie drafts this coming May, whether you're in a super flex league, one quarterback league. I will have you covered no matter what. So let's go. All right, Jordan Addison, wide receiver of the USC Trojans. This is his tale of the tape, age 21.1 years old, 5'11", 173 pounds, officially weighed in at the combine. Addison was a four-star recruit out of Frederick, Maryland, the number 10 athlete, not even wide receiver, in the 2020 recruiting class. He broke onto the scene pretty quickly as a true freshman, broke out at age 18 for 600 yards and a 21% target share at Pitt. In 2021, he exploded with Kenny Pickett, who is a future first-round quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, with a whopping 100 catches, 1,593 yards, 17 touchdowns, and a 27% target share to boot, en route to winning the Biletnikoff as a true sophomore, 19-year-old. The last two wide receivers to do that, Jamar Chase and Jerry Jeudy, from big schools as well. In 2022, he leaves the University of Pittsburgh. He transfers to the University of Southern California to play with Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Lincoln Riley, also architecting that offense, and his role shifted from a shifty slot receiver that he played at Pittsburgh, playing 68% of the snaps out of the slot, to an outside field stretcher playing 77% of the snaps on the outside, a guy who Lincoln Riley was routinely drawing up screens for, designed plays for. In a down season, quote unquote, he posted 875 yards, 84 targets, 8 touchdowns, a 21% target share in the games that he was actually healthy for in weeks 1 to 7 before he hurt his ankle against Utah. He posted 100 yards and or a touchdown in every game prior to that injury, and still posted 178 yards and a touchdown against UCLA a few weeks later. So personally, I think the injury stunted Jordan Addison's explosive down the stretch type of run. I think he was about to go crazy at the end of the season. That injury kind of got in the way, unfortunately. But nonetheless, still a pretty productive season there for him at Southern California. His current draft stock right now is about a mid-first round pick. EDP in the early 20s, so approximately some of the teams around there, the New York Giants, Baltimore Ravens, some of those teams that could be in need of some wide receiver talent. So let's get into the 6 fundamental traits. What does this kid do well? And it starts and ends with separation. Rather than telling you that he's a good separator, I'm just going to show you. You see him here working out of the slot at the top of the screen against soft coverage. He eats it up, right? Easy separation on an out route. In this clip, clean release, snaps back to the ball, creates a window for his quarterback, easy cash again. In this clip, when he was a member of Pittsburgh in 2021, he crosses the defender's face for a touchdown very easily, very similar to the touchdown catch that we saw in Garrett Wilson's coming out game against the Cleveland Browns early on last season. Press coverage here, this is what everyone's going to have a problem with, right? He's a small receiver. He can't beat press coverage. He doesn't get the ball on this play, but watch the clean release. Watch him fight throughout the route, create separation at the break point. This corner that he's going up against is 6'2", 200 pounds on the Oregon State website, fellas. So we're talking about a big corner against a small receiver. And he has, limited issues there against press coverage. Another press coverage rep here. He gets knocked off the line a little bit, but he's able to beat him clean after that. I reached out to Matt Harmon, actually, who will be dropping the reception perception profiles for the rookies on April 3rd. And I asked him basically, what did you think of Jordan Addison? How did he grade out for you? He said his profile was very similar to Jahan Dotson's, where he was very great against, zone coverage. 96th percentile was Jahan Dotson. Only a 47th percentile number, though, against press. And he mentioned to me that an NFL coaching staff would probably be wise to move him inside and outside, get him some free releases out of the slot if need be. Bar none, in my opinion, I think this kid's the best separator in the class and has the potential to develop into Calvin Ridley, Chris Olave, Devontae Smith caliber separator at the next level. 4th highest single season PFF receiving grade in 2021, his Biletnikoff season of 88.6. That's the 4th highest of anyone in this class posted in a single season. 82.4 this past year in quote unquote a down season. 3.41 yards per route run against man, which ranked 5th in the class in 2021. Posted 3.28 against man in 2022, which was 7th in the class. Both top 10 numbers against zone coverage as well. So once you get open, can you catch the ball, right? Are your hands an asset to your game? That is the second fundamental trait And I think Jordan Addison has some arrogant hands on film. Sliding to the ground on an underthrown ball on this play for Pitt. You can see why I talked about Jordan Addison carrying Kenny Pickett here, because this pass had no business being completed, and Jordan Addison makes his quarterback right. He braces for a big hit downfield, probably a suicide ball by Kenny Pickett, still makes the catch anyway. High ball over the middle, snags it, no problem. This dude can do anything that you want from a hands perspective. The one thing that he struggled with a little bit this year was contested catches, but he was borderline elite in that area in 2021, so I'm not really all that concerned. Best hands in the class that I've seen so far. Reminds me a lot of Jahan Dotson's hands last year. Tightened up a few drops from his 2021 season as well, with just a 3.3% drop rate. Only 2 drops on the season in 2022, which ranked second best in the class. He also ranked fourth best in this class in catchable target rate. So basically all the passes that were thrown to him that were deemed to be catchable, how many did he come down with? 95% of his passes there at a 10.7 ADOT, which is important because he wasn't some, 5 ADOT, 8 ADOT type of wide receiver getting easy pitch and catches. He was working downfield. So the fact that he came down with a lot of those balls is definitely very, very impressive. So he checks that box, no problem. Now let's get into the next trade here. Once you get open, once you catch the ball, what can you do with it? Yards after catch ability, 6th highest rate of missed tackles forced in 2021 at 21% is Jordan Addison. Yards after catch per reception at over 6.5 per season in 2021 and in 2022. He's a great yards after catch receiver. You guys can see him working over the middle here, breaking tackles. Quick screen here, blocked up pretty well, and he's able to find pay dirt. He's not the best yards after catch receiver in this class, and I would say between the top 3 receivers, him, JSN, and Quentin Johnston, those 2 guys edged him out slightly in their grades. QJ, I think, is the best yards after catch receiver in this class, and JSN is probably not far behind him, but Jordan Addison's still 100 out of 110 in my grading system. It's still definitely an asset to his game. Number 4, the ability to affect all 3 levels of the field. And if you recall from Tuesday's video, this was my biggest issue with Jackson Smith-Njigba. He lost a few points in this category, and it's definitely not an issue with Jordan Addison because while he played from the slot 68% of the time at the University of Pittsburgh, he played 77% of the time at USC on the outside. In 2021, he showed he was capable of being a slot receiver, PPR machine, command all the targets for your offense and carry your offense at one school. Then he transfers to a new school, not necessarily as integral of a piece of the offense because they have an elite quarterback in Caleb Williams. He wins on the outside against larger corners. He's able to make plays downfield, showcase that he can work on design plays as well. At USC, he was used a lot more in the screen game on, short routes and stuff like that. So his role kind of changed at both schools. He was primarily a short to intermediate guy at Pittsburgh. And then at USC, he was more of like a short and deep guy, like we saw at a Chris Olave coming out of Ohio State last year. So you can see 2 clips here in a row where you can see why he's such a great route runner and why the 4.49 that he ran at the combine is a little bit deceptive because anybody can hesitate and make a slant route good, right? Even average route runners can look good running routes on a simple route, like a slant route or something like that. But Jordan Addison gets his DB turned inside out downfield using pretty much just subtle movements, and it makes his speed way, way more deceptive, and it makes him play faster than he actually is because he's able to get corners out of position very easily. And on this play, you can see that he has like a 200-plus pound safety draped all over him. He's able to make the adjustment downfield and shows why, along with intermediate routes, which he's so great at, he could do the screens and the design work well, but he can also win downfield contested catches, 50-50 balls, and threaten a defense at all 3 levels of the field, making sure that the corner has no idea when he lines up across from Jordan Addison if he's going short, if he's going medium, or if he's going deep. Then we get into the 5th fundamental trait of the wide receiver position, which is baseline level athleticism. So when I talk about athleticism at wide receiver, I'm mainly talking about how good of an athlete are you relative to NFL athletes. Not necessarily you need to be an elite athlete to be a great wide receiver because there's plenty of wide receivers in the NFL, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, that are not elite athletes whatsoever. They just meet the thresholds needed and they're able to make up for it in other ways and play faster because they're such good, processors and just good pure wide receivers, which is kind of along the same mold as Jordan Addison because he's a fine athlete, right? A 4.49 is a solid time. Not going to blow you away, but it's a solid time. Good agilities, okay jumps. Sure, he's not, quite the athlete that some of these wide receivers like Quentin Johnston are in this NFL draft class, but he does meet NFL thresholds, and people are mad that he didn't test better because they wanted to see him test like a freak show because that's pretty much what happens every single year. And every single year, we have to remind you of the same thing. Tape and production is what matters for wide receivers. Athleticism, not so much. It matters to some degree, meet the thresholds, but you don't need to be an elite athlete to be a great fantasy wide receiver. Just look at some of the best wide receivers in fantasy. Amon-Ra St. Brown tested like an average athlete. Devontae Adams tested like an average athlete. We have guys every single year that are not great athletes perform at a high level for fantasy. Number 6 we get into is production profile, and this one matters a lot more in my grading system than athleticism does, and I stand by this statement because I think if Jordan Addison weighed 190 pounds at the combine, then we'd be talking about him as the consensus wide receiver 1 in this class because the production is great. Biletnikoff season as a sophomore, like I said, freshman breakout, all well and good, as I mentioned in the background info. 27% target share, all that information is very pertinent to his dynasty profile and his rookie profile. But let's take a look at the nerd graphs, right? The stuff that you guys see on Twitter that you might not understand. Here's how he produced relative to other elite dynasty wide receivers right now. Jefferson, Chase, CeeDee Lamb, the dudes that are at the top of the dynasty wide receiver rankings in college. These guys, this is their production profiles in college. And also all of the guys that are on this chart played at big schools like Clemson, LSU, Oklahoma, and, Ole Miss like A.J. Brown. And they all had the same advantages that Jordan Addison had, right? Jordan Addison played with a first-round pick in Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh, played with a future first overall pick in Caleb Williams at USC. All of these guys played with great quarterbacks as well. And you can see he's on par with them in experience-adjusted PPR points. He's actually near the top in experience-adjusted PPR points, right up there with Jamar Chase. I have listed there 1 to 7 because in weeks 1 to 7, when he was actually healthy before he suffered the ankle injury, that's where he would have ranked. You can see the same thing for experience-adjusted touchdown per team pass attempt. He's right there with all of those dudes. Experience-adjusted receiving yards market share, right there with all these dudes, even this year in a down season. In all of these charts, he's pretty much on par with the elite dynasty wide receivers, and the only ding in his grade analytically for me is his size, because he would be somewhat of an outlier, right? He only weighed 173 pounds, and only really Devontae Smith and Hollywood Brown have been sub 180-pound first-round wide receivers that eventually worked out in dynasty leagues, but I'm going to say exactly what I said about Devontae Smith coming out. I don't care that he's small because the kid can ball. As much as I want to say his size is an outlier, we cannot name first-round wide receiver prospects, elite caliber wide receiver prospect, who are as ironclad as Jordan Addison, who are also small, sans Devontae Smith pretty much. We've seen small wide receivers miss at the next level, like Tutu Atwell, for example, but a guy like that did not nearly sniff the prospect profile that Jordan Addison has of production, of tape. All the stuff that we see out of Jordan Addison makes me believe that he can overcome the size. In today's NFL, they're not hitting very hard. There's not a lot of big linebacker Ray Lewis types killing you over the middle. It's not the same game anymore. Jordan Addison is one of many wide receivers that can succeed at a small size. We've seen Jalen Waddle be successful at barely 180 pounds. Chris Olave be successful at 185 pounds. Devontae Smith, about 175. Marquise Brown, 165 pounds at the combine. Like, these guys are not big dudes, and they can be successful. So even though, yes, ideally he would be 190, 195, 200 pounds, it's something that he can overcome, in my opinion. And some of the subjective factors that I factored into my grade for Jordan Addison were his football IQ, because he's very savvy. It shows in his route running. It shows in his awareness against zone coverage, and it's a big-time asset to his game. And I saw the same thing with Devontae Smith coming out of Alabama as well. He's also tough as hell. As much as I don't think his size is an issue, it would benefit him probably to get stronger so that he can use his toughness a little bit more effectively at the catch point, because he did struggle, like I said, with some of the contested catches this year. And also, he needs to develop a more refined release package. As I talked about with Matt Harmon, he talked about him not being that great against press coverage. I think the same is true. And it's not necessarily because I think he always gets out-muscled. I think his feet and his release package is just underdeveloped at this point in time. And an NFL receiver coach can help him get back on track with that, because Devontae Smith did not have that issue coming out of Alabama, even despite being the same size as Jordan Addison. So when I get into his final grade, 957.5 out of 1,100, just 2.5 points higher than the grade I gave for Jackson Smith-Njigba on Tuesday. He is basically my wide receiver 1A. I'm not even going to call him my wide receiver 1, because the second I say that, everybody gets mad in the comment section and says that I'm stupid for not having JSN 1. They're 1A, 1B for me right now. They're both awesome, and landing spot will determine who is higher after the NFL draft. Landing spot and draft capital, if one of them goes 12th overall to the Texans, let's say JSN does, and Jordan Addison falls out of the first round, 39th to Carolina, I'm going to have JSN wide receiver 1. Addison's biggest strengths are route running, hands, 3-level ability, production, and his football IQ. His biggest weaknesses are probably his functional strength because he's a smaller receiver, and the depth of his release package. Like I said, he kind of just wins off the line in similar ways most of the time. My pro comparison for Jordan Addison is Devontae Smith / Chris Olave / Jahan Dotson. I have it settled as Devontae Smith right now, but I think he has elements of all of those guys' games in his repertoire. I think he's like Jahan Dotson as an athlete, with Chris Olave's deep route running ability and ability to affect all 3 levels of the field, with Devontae Smith's arrogant hands and competitiveness. So he kind of has like a bit of all of those guys mixed into his game. Smith produced better in his Heisman season than Jordan Addison produced in his Biletnikoff season, but Addison is an early declare with better age-adjusted numbers than Devontae Smith had. So to me, their profiles kind of balance out a little bit, although I did have Devontae Smith graded 40 points higher coming out because his tape was better than Jordan Addison's. But either way, Devontae Smith, Olave, Jahan Dotson is the type of comparison that I have for Jordan Addison coming out here. Ideal landing spot for me, I want him to go to Houston. The reason I want him to go to Houston is because there, I believe he would have Bryce Young throwing him the ball, who's a great, type of quarterback for his skill set. He also would have very little target competition there with no Brandon Cooks. It's just Nico Collins and John Mechie and Robert Woods and a couple other guys there. He'd have the ability to be scheme touches by a 49ers-centric type of coaching staff. They could deploy him the way that they've deployed guys like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk over the past couple of years. I also think the Giants would be a great fit if he falls to them at 25, because they have an inside-outside role that is available because they pretty much have no stable wide receivers, and the ones they do have are, older, like Sterling Shepard in the slot, Darius Slayton, who's mainly an outside guy, Isaiah Hodgins, mainly an outside guy. They don't have a true 3-level threat who could be their number one wide receiver. And I think Jordan Addison could really, really fill that role for them. And I also do think the New England Patriots are a decent landing spot for him as well. And the reason I like the Patriots as a landing spot is because I know how the fantasy community thinks. And the second he goes 14th overall to the New England Patriots, everybody's going to be out on him, let him fall to 108, 109, 110 in rookie drafts because the Patriots can't draft wide receivers and they never throw to their wide receivers and all they do is run the ball, whatever the case is. The narrative would keep him down in price in rookie drafts, and I actually would really like that for Jordan Addison because I want a lot of him in my dynasty leagues. And as far as rookie draft outlook, what you guys should do with him in rookie drafts, because I know I'm getting a lot of shares of this dude because I've positioned a lot of my dynasty leagues in areas where I would get Jordan Addison. He is my current 105 in Superflex rankings, but like I said, if you wanted to take JSN ahead of him at 105, I don't think that's outrageous. I do have the 3 top quarterbacks and Bijan Robinson rated higher than both of those guys. And on Tuesday, I said I'm not trying to outsmart the market. Just because I have Jordan Addison 105 doesn't mean I actually have to pick him that high, because he's not going to go 105 in most dynasty leagues. I can sit there at 107, at 108, and get a ton of Jordan Addison, who is my 105, but I don't actually have to draft him at 105. I can just take the value, in my opinion, and get him where he's being undervalued. And if you have the 104 to 105 and you want to take JSN over him, that's fine. Go for it. I'm not going to talk you out of it, but I would encourage you to see what people are willing to give you in a trade down. If you could get down to 107 from 104 or 105, and somebody's going to give you a great young wide receiver to move up to that pick, or maybe they could give you quarterback equity to just sell that pick outright, or whatever the case is, I would encourage you to see how much people value JSN in your league. And if you can get yourself in a range where you can pick up, let's say, Jordan Addison plus an additional 2024 first for a second pick swap or something like that, just because those guys to me are in the same tier. And if you can get one plus extra draft capital on top of just not taking JSN, who's the more expensive option, then I think you should absolutely be willing to at least entertain something like that. And in one quarterback leagues, where I'd be taking Jordan Addison would be anywhere from 102 to 104. The highest I would take him is 102. But like I said, I don't think you need to take him there because I think the consensus will have both Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jahmyr Gibbs valued over him. So a lot of 104s, if you guys play in one quarterback leagues, to me, that would be the pick that I would be targeting because I think you can get Jordan Addison with those picks. And depending on team needs, I think JSN, Gibbs, and Jordan Addison are all kind of in the same tier. So if you had 7 deep at wide receiver and only one good running back and you're ready to maybe make a competitive switch at 103, then go ahead, by all means, take Jahmyr Gibbs. But that's what you need in terms of team factors in a rookie draft. Generally, I don't like drafting for need, but when players are in the same tier, like I view JSN, Jordan Addison, and Jahmyr Gibbs to be, then I'm fine taking the running back over the wide receiver if you need running backs more, and vice versa. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If you guys want more rookies content, more dynasty content, my dynasty rookie rankings, Superflex, one quarterback, top 250 overall for startups. Go check out the new website, flockfantasy.com. Use the promo code FSE to get exclusive benefits from us. If you don't use the promo code FSE, you won't get access to first priority submissions for Dynasty Decisions. As I mentioned in Monday's video, we have a new format for submitting Dynasty Decisions. So go check out that video for a full tutorial on how to submit teams now, or just check out the Google form link down below in the description and follow the instructions there. Indicate whether you're a site subscriber or you're a free submission, and we will get you into the queue. So definitely, if you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here, and leave any comments down below as well. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.